Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Marr. I met some of you this morning when I introed the mayor. Quick bit of background, I'm on the advisory board for Seattle Interactive, have been for the last several years. And they asked us to all jump up here before a lot of these keynote and session speakers to make sure that we give them a proper introduction to Seattle and to the Seattle Interactive Conference. So our next speaker is the founding editor of the Huffington Post, which is a pretty exciting thing to have here, as well as president and co-founder of Huffington Post Live. He's here to talk to us about social television. Please welcome Roy Sekoff.
How's everybody doing? Good. I don't know what it is at the post-lunch slot. Is this good? Are you nourished? Do you feel like energized? You've drank the coffee, or are you kind of having the post-carbo crash? I'm a little bit concerned here, which is the way to go. Because of that, I'm not sure whether I should start out really strong or kind of ease into it, particularly as people are walking in. I thought, we're going to be talking, let's see, here's my slide, creating social TV. We're going to be talking about that. So I think maybe I was going to come on, I don't know, like a wrecking ball. But I thought that maybe this would be too much. You really don't want to see me twerk. So, anyway, let's talk about social TV. What do we mean by social TV? Most people, when they talk about social TV, I think they're really talking about something very sort of simplistic, foundational. It's video, it's TV, and we can share it. Right? It's very 1.0. What I really want to talk about is how do we take it really to the next level, beyond 2.0, 3.0. Social TV where there's true interactivity and where the audience is just as much as part of the experience as the people who are producing the video. This is a moment, a seismic shift that I think is occurring throughout all of media. We're at this moment where people no longer, particularly when it comes to the news, they don't want to have the big media gods up on Mount Olympus telling us, and that's the way it is. That's traditionally been the way. But people don't want that anymore. They don't want to be talked at. They want to be talked with. And I think that's really the moment that we find ourselves in. Just 10, 15 years ago, it was about one person telling us what had happened. Now, it's about all of us telling each other what's happening right now, and now, and now. And this shift from presentation to participation is really what fuels HuffPost Live, which is the thing that I've been working on for the last 2 years, in which I'll talk about, give you some stories, and let you know what some learnings that we've had from it. But it all started, I am the founding editor of the Huffington Post, so it started really with what we learned from HuffPost. And I don't know if you know this, but let's see if I can make this thing do something interesting and go, look at that, it's moving, yay. So at the Huffington Post, since we launched in May of 2005, we've had 265 million comments left. It's kind of a mind-blowing number. When you look at most periodicals or most online newspapers, they get maybe 100 comments on a story. We can get 100,000. To put that in some perspective, 265 million is about, we're averaging 5 comments every second of every day. It's pretty crazy. So when we were talking about starting a video manifestation of HuffPost, we looked at the comments. And one of the things that I found out was that over 70% of the comments being left on the Huffington Post were being left in response to another comment. So people were, in fact, not just commenting, but they were having conversations. So we thought, well, what if we could take these conversations and put them front and center in this video platform? And as we were trying to figure out what that would be like, we thought, well, what is the key here? Who can we turn to? Where do we get our learnings from? So we actually went to one of the great geniuses of modern media for the answer to our question. That's not it. That was not the question. I'm going to go back to where he was. He's nowhere. Oh no. Where are you? Video. It seems to be missing. So I will go on to the next thought. Anyway, here we go. Let's try this.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, why not? It's a classic.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live. So we thought we would do it live. And what's the advantage, really, of live? I mean, there's a few reasons to do live programming. One is, of course, it gives you flexibility. So on a moment like the Boston Manhunt, we were able to flip on a dime, throw out everything we were going to do, and switched over to programming about that. So there's one of the reasons, obviously, to do it live. Another reason is that there's that little bit of sense of danger, that sense of risk. I mean, it's one of the reasons we like watching Saturday Night Live. Is somebody going to do something crazy? We had Russell Brand on HuffPost Live the other day, and a complete madman, but brilliant. And in the midst of the interview, he actually ended up destroying one of our host's computers. He poured water on it, and he was yelling, "Take that, NSA!" So it had a sense of excitement that you wouldn't have if you had just been doing that on tape. But for me, the real reason, the predominant reason to do anything live is for engagement. If you want to really have engagement with your audience, you can't do it on tape, right? You can't have a great call-in radio show without people listening. So we decided to do it live. And once we decided to do that, it really changed everything. It changed everything that we were planning to do. This was the original mock-up that we used to get the board of directors to approve it. And you see, it's kind of like most everything you see, right? Big video screen, little bit of social down there. We thought, well, you know what? What if we tried to change the dynamic? What if we were serious about putting engagement equally as important as consumption? So this was, the great, it's always on a cocktail napkin. You're sitting there, you get the great idea. This wasn't a cocktail napkin. It was a whiteboard. But this was February of 2012. And that was the day that we sort of came on this idea of trying to make engagement equal to consumption. And once we did that, it changed everything. We made it our North Star. And it changed what it looked like. I'll show you that in a second. It changed the technology that we used to build it. It changed the people that we hired in front of and behind the scenes. So this is what HuffPost Live platform looks like now. And you see we shrunk the video screen down a little bit. At the end of the day, it's people talking. We're not doing Avatar. We're not spending $220 million on the visuals. So we made that smaller, and we made the engagement part so much bigger. Over here, people are having real-time conversations. We've had over 1.5 million comments just left on the HuffPost Live platform since we launched. So then we have this premise. People want to be a part of it. We want them to be a part of it. We don't want them to be a part of it just as an afterthought. I mean, you'll see that a lot. I mean, they'll read tweets or, they'll have the thing, we're talking to the expert over here, and, oh, we have John from Wyoming. Oh, sorry, John, we're out of time. No, we really wanted to put them front and center. But then we said, well, if we're really going to put people front and center, we want them to be on an equal playing field with the experts and the other people that they will be talking about, right? We don't want it to be, Mr. Expert, I have a question. We want it to be, hey, I read your blog post, and I disagree with you, and here's why. So in order to make that possible, we created this thing over here we call the resource well. Remember back in junior high, they always said, show your work when you're doing your math problem? Well, this is us showing our work. Anything that we did to go into one of our segments, we put there. So you can read about it, and you can be up to speed. So you're not asking a question from a lower position. You're on an equal playing field. And that's been really a cool thing. We thought, well, that's great, but what if we could make that possible not just for the live segment, but for the segment coming up in 20 minutes or 40 minutes or an hour or 3 hours? So that's what up top there is. We call those our green rooms. That's our interactive program guide. So basically, once you click on that, You can still hear the live segment in case something really cool is going on, that little small thing up there where it says live. But in the rest of it, you're surrounded by, let's say you wanted to do the Jay-Z thing. You're surrounded by all the information to do with that segment, and you can start a conversation about it, and we've had it. That's when the platform really works the most exciting, when we've had people start conversations 2, 3, 4 hours before a segment goes live, and there's already 50, 60, 70 comments. So that's sort of the basis of what we did when we launched HuffPost Live, and this is kind of what it looks like now. Google, just so you know, they are not really our partner. I don't want to use that word too aggressively, but we use their technology, Google Hangouts, a lot to bring our guests in. We bring them in from all over the world. Since we launched, we've had 10,000 people join us live from 90 countries. And usually we do it via a Google Hangout. And they liked what we were doing so much, they asked if they could come and do a video about it. And we said, sure, you're Google. So this is what it looks like, and kind of gives you a better idea of what we've been doing.
This is the Huffington Post.
It launched in 2005, a time when social media was on the rise and the face of journalism went from this to this. And how we got the news went from this to this. It was in this social blogosphere where the Huffington Post gained its traction by taking news out of the hands of the analysts and giving it to
the community.
The community. The community. The community.
So we were really at the moment, at the cusp of this great, social media revolution.
This is Roy.
Do you want a hi or just?
He was at the Huffington Post when he teamed up with this guy, Gabriel, to answer the question, where do we go from here?
So basically, we said, let's take this thing that's already successful.
Just taking what was happening on Huffington Post
and try to just do it in another medium.
And that's when it hit them. Video. So Roy and Gabriel set out to create a broadcast network that would have the same sort of community interaction as the Huffington Post.
So the question became, how do we embrace, the bloggers?
What is the story here? The real-time nature.
What's going on at the Chick-fil-A in Austin?
And all the things that we were doing, and the community.
In other words, how do you go from just presenting broadcast news to having people actually participate in it, like they do online, but live and on air? Here's what they do.
My name is Francina. I'm Sydney. Gwen.
This is where it all starts. Each day, HuffPost producers scour the web looking for people with opinions.
We'll start streaming for comments, conversations that people are having that you normally wouldn't have, that makes it a little more unique than you would have at other platforms.
But on the web, people can be from anywhere, so they needed a way to bring them all together and in one place. And they found it online.
There's this big button that says, be an on-air guest. You can click that button and explain why you think you'd be a good guest for that segment.
A producer watches it, then
I send those comments to the host, who can then pose them to our panel.
Live and on air.
I want to play a video comment that came in from a young woman in Saudi Arabia. This is about culture. Yeah, just came in.
So instead of having to have them drive to a SAT hit to go do something somewhere, you can have them all in the same Google Hangout, and they can be on HuffPost Live.
It happens often enough where the hair stands up on the back of your neck and you go, that's the future.
Here we go, guys. 5.
And so, maybe this is where technology's taking us. To a place that's less about being talked at and more about being talked with. When you think about it that way, the news feels more and more like a community.
Yeah. So the good news is that technology, well, here's the good news I'll get to in a second. The truth is technology has made this incredibly easy, lowered the bar for entry. 2 decades ago, it would have taken, $1 billion to launch a network? Now, you can, if you have one of these, or one of these, or one of those tablets that you're tapping away on, anybody who has a webcam can join us live right now on HuffPost Live. And the good news, here's the part of it, is that these people who we are bringing in actually have really interesting things to say. One of the big complaints, or not complaints, but like harumphing, the harumphing that we got when we first announced what we were going to do, was like, well, wait a minute, Roy. I mean, really, aren't there only like 5 people who can go on television and, be a talking head, talking, cogent sound bites? Just 5, and 2 of them are David Gergen, And our premise was no, that there's a lot of people out there who had interesting things to say, who were being denied a seat at the table in the national conversation. And that's what we found. We found that people really do have really amazing things to say. One of the reasons that gave me confidence that I wasn't making a ridiculous bet was that we're all kind of doing this right now every day, right? Everybody's expressing their opinions on Twitter or on Facebook. We're using video chat all the time. I don't know about you, but I talk to my friends that way. I talk to my grandmother that way. So it doesn't seem like it's that foreign a thing that we're asking people to do. And that's really been the way that it's worked out. And, it's kind of been very empowering to see people who you normally don't see them on your television, with points of view that you don't normally hear. There was this one moment very early on when we were actually doing a practice run before we launched. And I walked into the control room, we had all the different screens and all the different people who were going to join, and I kind of stopped for a minute, and there was this woman, and I don't know how to describe her without sounding derisive. I don't mean to be derisive, but she didn't look like anybody I'd ever seen on TV before. She did not have her full complement of teeth. She was wearing a house coat, chain smoking, and every now and then would lean down and sip some form of, I believe it was an adult beverage. So I sort of said to myself, holy shit, what's going on here? And, but I trusted that we had hired, good people to put these segments together. And her name was Rogie, and she said that she was joining us live from a double-wide trailer in rural New Mexico. And I remember the segment was about whether white gay men were hijacking the gay rights movement. Because basically, if you look at most conversations and most stories, it's like the 2 guys and they're happily married and they've adopted the kid and everything's nice in Connecticut, And she was saying, listen, I'm a 60-year-old lesbian living in rural New Mexico, and that's not me, and this is not putting my story across. And once she started talking, I was nervous, I really was, because she was kind of swaying a little bit. And she didn't say anything, and finally they went to her, and she started with this monologue, and it blew my mind. I said, oh my God, if we could do this at least once a day, we win. Whatever else happens, if we can get Rogie a seat at the table and let her speak her mind and say things that she hasn't been able to say before and give a point of view that people haven't heard before, that's going to be great. The thing for me is what we had to do, though, is we had to redefine what it means to be an expert. Like, what do we usually see, right? Whenever we watch cable, and by the way, I'm not putting down cable, it's great. We were just trying to go someplace that they weren't, trying to do something that they weren't. Didn't make sense to do the same thing that was already being done. But one of the things is they sort of define an expert pretty narrowly. For them, an expert is somebody from the halls of academia or somebody who used to be in government or is a lobbyist, right? And that's their definition of an expert. And that's fine, but I think there's a much wider definition. And for me, the phrase that we always use is skin in the game. You know that expression, do you have skin in the game? Do you have something at stake? Does this mean something more to you than some sort of intellectual exercise? So if somebody has skin in the game, then for me, they're an expert. For instance, if we're talking about Obamacare, we don't want anybody who goes, oh, I don't like Obamacare. Why? I don't. Why? Just don't. Why not? Don't like it. It's just bloviation, right? It doesn't move the ball forward. It doesn't add anything to the discourse. But if you have a woman on who says, yeah, I have a child, and she had a pre-existing condition, and I wasn't able to get coverage before, and now I can, and here's how it's changed my life, that woman's an expert, So, and that's what we do. We bring in people who have skin in the game, and it really is amazing the connection that you get when they start sharing their stories. And that's really what it's about, sharing their stories. It's funny. I don't know, I guess people like to be critical, or they're just nervous about the future. Maybe that's it too. But I was being interviewed by a reporter in Israel 2 days ago. I'm going over there to speak on Thursday. And so I was doing an interview, and they said, but really, letting these regular people on, isn't that, that's not really journalism, is it? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Are you a journalist? Yeah. Do you have sources? Yeah. Do you get them on the phone? Yeah. Do you ask them questions? Yeah. Do you write down what they say? Yeah. Do you publish it? Yeah. Hello? We're just cutting out the middleman. You know, we're letting people speak directly without us deciding, oh, that's what's important, what's not important. Of course, by the way, this is not chat roulette. We don't just click a button and you come on. We have 100 people that we've hired, producers, they're all journalists, and they screen everybody. You press the button you want to be in on our guest, then you leave a comment or you leave an audition, if you will, saying why you want to be on. And then we listen to you, and if you feel like we feel like you have skin in the game, if you feel like you have something to add to the conversation, then we have you on. So we're doing what journalists have always done. We're just using technology, I think, to take it to the next level. Now, what else is the core of journalism, and I think of what all people working in media are really trying to do, is tell stories. It's about narrative. I think the era that we're living in right now, obviously, I'm not thinking, I know, is the greatest era in the history of mankind in terms of data collection and being able to connect to data, right? I mean, you could say anything. I could say any ridiculous fact. What's the average rainfall in Mozambique? 15 seconds, we have the answer, right? So we have data coming out of our ears. We're not lacking in data. What we're lacking is narrative. What we're lacking is storytelling and putting flesh and blood onto that data. The way I look at it is data touches your head, but narrative touches your heart. And I think the only way to change minds and touch hearts is to touch people's hearts. And that's, I think, the secret, is putting flesh and blood on the data. And that's great. Listen, if I say to you, for instance, this is an example that I sometimes use. If I say to you that unemployment in America is 7.2%, like I go, that's bad. I know historically, not good, not good number, yeah. But I'm not touched, I'm not moved. My brain is kind of thinking. Even if you say that means that 20 million people are out of work or underemployed, I still go, wow, 20 million, that's bad. That's a big number. I know it's a big number, but I'm still not connected in an emotional way. But if you say to me, this is John. John's been out of work for 99 weeks. Because of that, he's lost his home. His wife is now doing 3 shifts at the factory. His kid had to leave the school that she loves. This is John. I'm in. I want to hear more. Tell me about John. Now, if you wrote that, I'd be interested. But if you show me that that's John, then I'm really engaged. And then if John, see here, if John, this is my expert slide. Used to be, what do we see here? Yeah, middle-aged white guys. Yeah, that's kind of the experts that we're used to seeing. These are the experts that we're bringing on. So if you have John, and actually, this woman is a perfect example. Her name is Sandy. I'm never going to forget her, but this is the power of storytelling. Sandy came on. We were doing a thing about poverty. I don't know if you know about this. Poverty in America, horrible. The numbers keep going up. I think it's 46.2 million, gotten worse over the last 10 years. Interestingly, the fastest growing cohort of poverty in America is the suburbs. Now, you'd probably think, well, it's the inner city or it's Appalachia, rural, South, but it's actually the suburbs. And this woman, Sandy, came on. We were doing a story about the new face of poverty, and she told her story, and her story was that she used to make $100,000 a year, and then she got divorced, and that kind of messed up her finances. And then she had a car accident. She didn't have proper insurance, and I think you probably know 53% of all bankruptcies are due to medical bills. And she found herself homeless. And she said, I'm the new face of poverty. And then she started talking to John. And it was this amazing conversation. And then the third woman was a homeless woman who so wanted to be a part of this conversation. She'd heard about it through an organization that we were in contact with, that she asked the public library if she could use their computer to join the segment live. And the conversation was truly, truly amazing and unforgettable. So that's the power of narrative and of storytelling. I want to see what my next slide is because I don't want to look like an idiot. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So look at this one. Oh, boy. Graphics, they're great. So this is basically what we've been doing, and it's really working. What we're finding are that people are really connecting with this engagement. The biggest stat that I'm most excited about, yes, it's great that we've had over 500 million views and 1.4 million comments and 16 million monthly UVs, but it's the fact that people are spending 22 minutes every time they come and watch HuffPost Live. But that's kind of like sitcom numbers, right? It's about 5 times the average for online video. It means that people are connecting to this, and the ability to connect, the ability to tell stories, and the ability to have their voices be heard. So that's that. So social TV. This is sort of my thoughts on social TV, is that it's allowing people to come in, to say their piece, to be heard, to have a seat at the table. And when we talk about, here's a question I have for you. This is something I thought about actually on the flight up here. I flew up last night, and I was thinking, because someone was talking about the second season of House of Cards and how excited they are about it. It got me to thinking about the connection between social and live. You know, it's hard to get people. We don't really sort of have that town square anymore, right? There's very few big events that we all watch or that we all talk about. Sports is still that. That's why they pay $1 billion, well, actually $20 billion for the rights to the NFL, right? So, but I think actually that social media has the potential to really resuscitate and cause the renaissance of live programming. Because if it's not live, you can't also be part of that social conversation, right? You look at this, if you look at the social graph and you watch like on a Sunday night when Game of Thrones is on, right? You see it starts to go as you get to 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9, and it's sort of peaking there at 9 o'clock on a Sunday when everybody wants to be part of the conversation. Because if you're not, you either have to seal yourself off somewhere so you don't hear what happened at the red wedding, you know? Or, you know, so this is the interesting thing. I know people have been talking a lot about this binge viewing, and I'm not sure. I actually find it to be sort of a bit alienating. Here's a metaphor that I thought of on the plane that's probably inappropriate, but I'll use it anyway, because why not? I was already swinging on the wrecking ball. So I kind of think that binge viewing is a little bit like a one-night stand. And something like Breaking Bad is like tantric sex. You know? Because when they released, for instance, a perfect example is Arrested Development. People waited 7 years for this show to come back on. They released the whole new season. People went crazy. People were talking about it for 2 weeks. They were just like kind of an orgy of Arrested Development. And then crickets, right? No one was talking about it. It was sort of done. But this last season of Breaking Bad, oh my God, it was like this sort of demi-climax in the dip, and you talked about it, and then you got close again, and then finally this spectacular, shattering, kind of orgasmic moment, ending the thing. So I think in some ways, I think the statistic was 5 million interactions on Facebook the night of the Breaking Bad finale, and I think that's the thing. For me, it's like if you lose the water cooler if you sort of binge view. Right? Here's the difference. You have a show like Breaking Bad, and the next morning, or right away, you want to talk about it with somebody. You want to can you believe I did the thing? And you get there, and it's sort of that water cooler moment, right? And it's sort of one of these things where we can have a collective experience about it. Rarer and rarer these days, but I think shows like that do it. Whereas I think a show, the experience of the binge viewing, you sort of see somebody and you said, hey, did you see House of... No, don't tell me. No, I'm only on 2. You're on 4. Stay away. It kind of becomes this thing where we put ourselves in our little bubbles. And so I think this is sort of one of the exciting things that a social is sort of bringing us together, and I think is going to cause a renaissance of live programming. Mark Cuban said something interesting about this. He said, Gangnam Style was this great example of this because 1 billion people watched that, but no 2 people did it at the same time. So you sort of can't have that moment. You could sort of maybe talk about it in retrospect, but it's not that same feeling of this happened. So that's really the message, and I'd like to open it up to any questions you have, because I don't usually talk about it like this because it sounds pretentious, but I really think that what we're doing and what these tools allow us to do, allow us to have the ability to really democratize the media. We've lowered the bar to entry. We've given people a seat at the table. And like that guy in the video said, I really do feel like that's the future. I'll leave you this last example, and then we can open up for questions. You saw a moment of it there in the video with Tom Friedman. We don't have these every day. But when they happen, it really does make the hair stand up on your arms. What happened was Friedman was talking about the treatment of women in Saudi Arabia. And a woman in Saudi Arabia was watching HuffPost Live. And she left a video comment. We turned it around in a minute. We showed it. And Friedman said, well, wait a minute. She's answering the thing I just said. We said, yeah. She said, but she's in Saudi Arabia. We said, yeah. He went, so I think those are the kind of things, those are the kind of moments, we talk about, well, Tom Friedman, like the earth is flat, right? But those are the moments when it's really amazing, when you can have a mother in Kenya and a mother in Kentucky and they start talking about their shared experiences. Really, really, really amazing, exciting, and it really does make me feel excited about the future. And happy to take any questions, comments, yes?
Do you see a future in going into the cable TV market, or are you going to stick primarily online?
That's a great question, and it's actually one that's we've been thinking a lot about. We've had many conversations with people in cable, and we're at this moment where I think we know that the great convergence is coming. The moment when it's all just content and it's just a different screen. Does it show here? Does it show there? Does it show on your tablet? But there's still the power of the dual income stream that you have on cable. You have advertising and you have the subscriber fees. And that's still very appealing, and I don't think that's going to go away for the next, 5 years. So with that as a possibility, we've been meeting with a lot of cable companies, but they're understandably reluctant to sort of dip their toe into what I would consider the future. They don't want to let something be available for free, because then why would you pay for it? And I understand that. So we are talking to some companies about possibly doing a different version of what we're doing, so that you have the free content that's available online, on your phone, on your tablet, and then also maybe some specialized programming that we do only for cable. And if that's the case, then maybe we would do it. But we're not ready to give up the platform that we're mostly connected to.
So you're leveraging the interactive TV technology, like, say either web-connected TV or like through an Xbox?
Yeah, to me, that's really the future. I know some Xbox people here. We've been having some conversations with them. To me, that's amazing. If you could use Kinect and that technology where you're sitting on your couch, it knows who you are, and you can play with our platform just by moving your fingers and joining us. You already have the camera on your TV. I think that's where we're headed, and I think that's going to be pretty exciting. Yes, she's got the Google Glass on, and she's saying that it's going to be part of the second. We're sort of doing both, right? In some ways, we're trying to do the second screen experience on one screen where you can watch and comment at the same place, but it certainly would work if we were just on your television. We've seen it, obviously, with Chromecast. I don't know if you guys have tried that yet. It's a pain in the ass, she says. It's in its nascence. However, the possibility of being able to, interact with your TV from, your computer, to throw your computer up. We do that now. If you have the HuffPost Live app, the iOS app, you could, if you have Apple TV, you throw it right on there. You can watch it and use the tablet as a second screen experience. So that's kind of exciting. I think that's where we're heading. No, I get what you're saying. Everything has its hiccups. Yes. Well, he asked a great question. If you can't hear, but because there's microphones here if you want to use them. Otherwise, I'll repeat them. He wanted to know, how do we, bring in all these voices but make sure and ensure the accuracy? And I think that this is the great question that everybody in new media and all media, because I don't believe there is any more traditional and I don't think there's a separation between traditional and digital. Everybody has to be in digital. If you don't have a digital strategy, you're pretty much dead. But I think we're all trying to make sure that, I think the day of wanting to be first, got to be right now, I think that's gone. I think people, we saw what happened. Listen, we saw what happened with the Boston bombing, the misidentification of the suspect. I think we still have those things, but I think we have the ability to course correct quicker. My supposition would be that everybody has to be, what we try to do at HuffPost is blend the best of the old and the best of the new. I mean, obviously, fact-checking, yeah, great. Getting things right, yep, you bet. These are things that we really want to do. But we're also interested in speed and transparency and having the two-way conversation. And I would say that new media is not the only one who has made mistakes, right? The question is, how quickly do you correct it? I don't want to go out on a limb here. Why not? So, I mean, I think, it wasn't a new media outlet that spent, I don't know, a year beating the drums about the weapons of mass destruction that were available in Iraq. I believe it was the front page of the New York Times. And it took them 9 months to say we were wrong. So I think that's the difference, and I think we also have the great thing. I'm not one who says the wisdom of the crowd is infallible, but I do think that you have 1 million fact checkers available. We see it on HuffPost. If we put something up and it's not right, they let you know, and they let you know very quickly. And then you have to be transparent and say, listen, we were wrong about this and we corrected it. And I think that's the secret. But for me, I don't know. It's like there's many different ways to bear witness, and I still believe in the power of professional journalism. I mean, I consider myself a journalist. I consider the people that we hire journalists. But if you said to me, I have the ability to have this person who was in Tahrir Square tell me what he saw, that he saw these 3 women being dragged away by the army, what if I could get those 3 women? To me, that's the even more powerful, right? It's sort of removing that filter. I'm not saying there's not room for both, but that's what we're leaning towards. We want to be able to have those 3 women come on and tell us what happened directly. Yeah, I don't know if you saw in the Google video, it was just a quick moment, the Chick-fil-A protests. We did that, and we had, from all across the country, people just hold up their phones and say, hey, look, here's who we are, and here's what's happening, and here's these people, and they were sort of reporting from the scene. And I think, obviously, we all have cameras now. There's almost nothing that happens in the world that isn't being covered by multiple people. And I think, again, we have the same thing. We want to make sure that the feed is accurate and that it's coming from a source that we trust. But we would like to do that more and more. At the moment, we're mostly doing in studio, bringing in people with conversations. But we have been doing that. We had somebody who was actually one of our hosts was in Boston when the manhunt happened, and he was on lockdown. And he had his computer, and he held it up to the window and said, look, this is this military truck that's happening right on the street here. And we had that a few times, and that's really, really cool, and I'd like to see us do that more and more. Anybody else? Yes. Sure.
I think this is a fabulous model. I come from old TV. My question for you is that to do this really effectively, what you guys are doing, it seems to be very resource intensive because you have to be listening a lot. I mean, you've got these people from Saudi Arabia who want to tune in. You've got to have a ton load of producers. Can this model scale down?
Yes, I do believe this. Obviously, I don't know if you know this, but HuffPost itself, I've been dealing with this on a daily basis for the last couple of months, is because we've just opened I believe it's our 8th international edition. We have editions now in the UK, Canada, France, Italy, Spain, Germany, Japan, and Maghreb, but we do. And we're launching Brazil in December and South Korea. So these are smaller operations, and they have the same question. Like, we would like to do this kind of thing. And I think there's a step. Like in the beginning, I think you can aggregate video, right? Very inexpensive, just like HuffPost and many, many, many others have done with text. You can aggregate video, create an interesting platform. Then you could start doing very simple, kind of repertorial, right, direct-to-camera kind of stuff. And then you can actually do live programming, not at the scale that we're doing it, but again, this is not an ad for Google. There's Skype and there's Spreecast and there's Watch It. There's many different platforms. But Google Hangout, you don't have to spend any money for that. And you can actually have a Hangout with up to 10 people having a conversation. So you could do it without doing all the things that we do. You still have to vet and you still have to do those kind of things. But yes, we've done it in a big way. We have about 100 people if you include the crew, but we're doing 12 hours a day live. So you don't have to do that either, right? As a matter of fact, we started, Germany just launched, and one of the editors there said that they had been doing a Google Hangout at lunch for half an hour with their readers. So I think it's something that people can do. And the technology is, the great thing is, every week it's getting better, right? Just as we've seen from our use of Hangouts, the quality of the video, the faster the broadband we get, the better that's going to be. And that's another thing. I don't know about you, but I actually kind of like the aesthetic of web video. And when I watch something on the web, and if it's too super produced and super polished, I kind of wonder a little bit about it. I don't know, maybe it's me, but I look at it and there's something about authenticity. It feels authentic because I think to myself, that's how I talk to my wife. That's how I talk to my kids. So when I see somebody else talking in that same kind of frame, I think, yeah, that feels authentic. And I think obviously that's what we're all after, both for those of us working in the media and those of us even who work, in sales and brands. That's one of the great questions that brands have is how can we be a part of this space? And I think authenticity is the thing that we're all looking for. It's that great quote that it's been attributed to everybody from Lenny Bruce to George Burns to Carol Burnett, but it's the key to success is authenticity, and if you can fake that, you got it made. So, yeah. Yes. She was asking, she misses the gravitas of Brokaw and Rather, and she wants a trusted source. And I understand what you're saying. It was about 2 or 3 years ago, I think the conversation was, portals are dead, right? We're only going to get our information from our friends. That's going to become our news feed. We'll just get it from our friends. That's who we're going to trust. And I think it's gone exactly the opposite. I think that there's so much information coming at us, right? It's just like this massive, never-ending stream of information, and I think we actually want trusted sources. So that's what we are at the Huffington Post. The kind of like, we'll read it so you don't have to. We'll read the 100 things so we can tell you these are the 10 things you really should know right now. So I think you have trusted sources like that, and we're not, like I said, we're not just, it's not UGC. It's not like only the audience is creating it. We have 100 producers, we have hosts, we have people who I think you come to know, that you come to trust. We want people who are able to express their opinion. I think that's a little bit of a difference. Everybody tried to have this sort of view from nowhere. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's an old journalism term, a view from nowhere. I don't have an opinion. I just, on the one hand, on the other, you decide. I think those days are done. I do think we want people who have opinions, not an agenda, but an opinion, right? And you're bringing it forward, and you're able to say, look, and you're upfront about it. I think we've seen this with the Snowden case. I think there was a great piece yesterday in the New York Times. See, I'm not just putting them down. I actually like the New York Times, where Bill Keller and Glenn Greenwald were discussing the Snowden story and how there was a different approach to it. So I think people want, as long as you're transparent, I think that's the key about it. So I don't think the day of the trusted source is gone. But I just think there's going to be more than... I think we all act as editors now. I mean, if you have Twitter, you're an editor, right? You're deciding who you feel is the trusted source. You're creating your feed. So when I wake up, I'm just, I'm getting the people that I trust. And of course, if they lose their trust, if I lose trust in them, then I don't follow them anymore. And I think we're all sort of news directors in that way. And I think it enables us, the danger that we're all aware of working in this space is that we do get into the bubbles, right? That we only listen to the people who have the same opinions we do. And that's why on HuffPost Live we try to bring in voices from all parts of the political and ideological spectrum. I was in Japan in May, and I said this thing. I wasn't intending to be funny, but they laughed, which scared me because you'll understand in a minute why being an international punchline is a little bit scary. Because what I said was, they asked me this question about bubbles. And I said, yeah, we're in danger of that in America, right? Because if you're a conservative, you probably listen and watch Fox. And if you're a progressive, you watch MSNBC. And if you don't have an opinion, you watch CNN. And they all laughed. And I thought, wow, that's a problem for that network, because if they're laughing in Japan about that. But anyway, so I do think there is a danger of that, and I think we all have to, both as consumers and as media outlets, try not to get into that pattern where we're just preaching to the choir. I find it kind of boring, so we like having divergent voices. Yes. Yeah.
At some point, you're going to have to show your bosses that you have to go make some money.
Oh, not someday. Soon. Yeah. Especially since we have the head of West Coast sales here for AOL, Tim Richards here. I will be careful how I answer this. No, I will say one thing about your question. I know what you were saying. I would argue with the premise at the end of the day that it's all about making money. But yes, it is, let's say, half of the equation. You can't continue to do important work unless you are making money. Good news is we're making money. Here's how we do it. We're doing two things at the same time. You know the old thing, can you do like pat your stomach? We're doing two things at the same time. On the one hand, we have the live feed. We're trying to build this muscular live network 12 hours a day. We don't have the full scale yet because I don't think we've habituated people to make it appointment viewing on that. So what we do is we take our segments, and we let our segments run long, 20, 25 minutes, as long as the conversation is interesting. But what we do then is we cut those up into highlights, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Because sometimes if I'm on my phone, I don't want to watch something for 25 minutes. It's a snack. I'm in line. I want to catch something. I want to see that really interesting thing that the person said. So we take those, and that's why we have over 550 million video views. And we've monetized those. We have pre-roll. Pre-roll is still the lingua franca for online video. It's what people want. Brands want to be next to it. Consumers want more online video. So this is actually a great opportunity for monetization. You get a much higher CPM. I mean, right, I don't want to get into all the, people here in the business part of it, but that's sort of where we're heading, is the barbell, as Tim Richards will talk about. A lot of advertising online is going to programmatic buying, right? The CPMs are coming down because there's sort of supply and demand. There's a lot of supply. But if you have premium programming, if you have premium content, people are willing to pay more for that. So that's why we're making the investment, is we're not just saying, oh, this is just quotidian everyday news. People aren't going to pay for that, right? You can get that a million places. This is very specific premium content that people want to be around, and we're finding that brands want to be around it. And we're doing, luckily HuffPost, I can only speak for us, we have 80 different verticals. So we're not just news, we're entertainment, we're celebrity, we're lifestyle. We just launched a new music platform with live music for the first time on Friday, and it's going great. I mean, over the weekend, we got a tremendous amount of people sharing it, passing it around, a lot of video views. So I think you'll be happy to know, and so will Tim Richards, that I expect we'll be in the black very soon. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Question, it might be a little bit controversial.
Okay.
I work in advertising. I obviously need things to be monetized so I can make a living. But I'll never forget during Sandy Hook when the shooting happened, we were in the office and we kept going to HuffPost, to New York Times. We could not watch a video or ads were popping up without having to, have Ford try to sell us a car. So we didn't know what was happening. And I'm just wondering, at what point with live TV do we draw the line with where ads stop?
Yes. She's asking the question of, what happens when a tragedy strikes? Sandy Hook shooting, Sandy the hurricane, anything named Sandy. Very, very, the Grease, they showed it again. You couldn't pay for it. But the truth is, we have a button that we can, it's a tag. We put a tag on that, and maybe we didn't do it quick enough. but we've gotten we're improving our processes where we immediately put the no ad on it. And we didn't have anything on our Boston coverage, no pre-roll at all. It just wasn't appropriate. So I think it maybe was a matter of us learning. Sandy Hook, I think that was December, right? Yeah, so maybe it was a little early. We hadn't gotten it quick enough, or we didn't do it fast enough, or bad on us. But we've gotten better, and so yes, we're very aware that you don't want to break away from. I mean, we're coming up on the 50th anniversary of the Kennedy assassination. You don't want to break away with. We'll be back to Dealey Plaza, but first, that wouldn't be good. Anyway, I think I might have gone past my time, but I'm happy to keep talking if anybody has another question. Otherwise, I will thank you and show you our favorite viewer. He's our viewer in chief. This was actually a slideshow that they put up without telling us on the whitehouse.gov, and it was basically a day in the life of the president, and we noticed that he was watching a HuffPost Live clip. So that made us extraordinarily happy. So we call him our viewer in chief. Anyway, thank you for coming. Have a good day.